Well, dear friends, Professor Ozoliņa, Foreign Minister, Excellencies, it's frankly a bit strange to change the role because I used to close this conference normally on Saturday afternoon. Now, with the new job comes also the new responsibility, and I'm supposed to formally open Riga Conference with an opening speech. But first of all, let me thank Latvia Foreign Ministry, Defense Ministry, volunteers, all those who have supported and contributed and who are going also to support and contribute to this conference. As Jeanette Ozoliņa just said, the first time we met was in 2006. It was a conference that was part of NATO summit. The agenda of NATO summit and the conference was what we are going to do about Afghanistan, what we are going to do about NATO's responsibilities. There was a very famous saying, if NATO doesn't go out of area, then it goes out of responsibility. Now, 17 years later, NATO has pretty much of the old responsibilities and a lot of job to do and also a lot of new challenges to tackle. I think that if we talk about the current situation, I would probably be very blunt and I would say that the world is a mess, Europe is a mess, the Middle East is a mess, everything is a mess. And it is very difficult to find a way out of this challenging situation. We also believe, we also understand that the coming year is going to be very challenging. It's going to be very challenging for Israel, it's going to be very challenging for Ukraine, it's going to be very challenging for Europe as a whole, and of course we have a lot of things to watch when it comes also to electoral processes. At the same time, I do believe that so far we have surprised ourselves because we have been able to keep our unity, we have been able to keep our support for Ukraine, we have been able to work out solutions as NATO, as the European Union, for many different and many difficult challenges. To that end, frankly, it would be very difficult to compete with President of the United States, Joe Biden, and his very powerful speech last night to not only the American nation, but I believe also to the whole world. And I very much welcome the commitment that the United States have made both to Ukraine, to Israel, but also to the transatlantic alliance, also to the Baltic states that have been very specifically mentioned. And I think that this shows that even in a very dark period of time, there is always a glimmer of hope, and we very much trust our American and Canadian allies, we very much trust our British allies, we very much trust our European allies and partners. I think that as we speak today, it is very important to outline that we stand in solidarity with Israel in its fight against terrorism, in its fight against Hamas terrorist organizations, and also we underline that we all understand that Hamas is not Palestinians, that Hamas does not represent Palestinians. We definitely want to see that Palestinian Authority, Palestine as such, condemns terrorism, works out the solutions how to stop the brutal spread of this disease. But we also underline that it is important that international humanitarian law, even under those very challenging times, is being observed by all. I also believe that we do need to understand that we must tackle two challenges at a time. And we all understand that Ukraine must win the Russian Federation. We also understand that Israel must win international and Hamas-type terrorism. We also see that there is a clear link between Russia and Iran. We see that Iran is sending drones, sending a lot of equipment to Russia, helping to fight against Ukraine. We see also the social media, the jubilation that we have seen by many Russian propagandists over the terrorist attacks against Israel. To some extent, I would say that this is now very important that we unite our efforts tackling this very, very challenging situation. There is also some good news. I do believe that what we are seeing, NATO is getting stronger, the European Union is getting stronger. We all are raising our defense expenditures. This country is committed to reach the defense expenditures to the level of 3% of GDP in coming years. We also see that we need to address issues that are related to defense capabilities, to defense industrial capabilities. There are going to be very interesting discussions. I very much welcome that former Prime Minister and current Foreign Minister, who is much better Foreign Minister than the previous one, and also the Commissioner Breton is here, and they are going to shed some thoughts on this very important topic. I think that what we are seeing at this point, the deployment of brigade-size Allied forces in the Baltic states, the increased attention to the resilience in the domain of cyber space against disinformation, that understanding that we need to tackle the new challenges like the artificial intelligence, especially the use of artificial intelligence, again trying to meddle into political processes, the need to develop legal framework in this respect. Also the fact that Latvia as the presidency of the Council of Europe is also attaching particular importance to the working group that is currently tasked to work out the kind of framework convention in this regard, the Council of Europe Framework Convention. Those are very, very important things that one needs to outline. But at the same time, we still need to understand what we need to do next. First, full and continuous support for Ukraine, be it military support, political support, and to that end, I do believe that by the end of this year, also the European Union needs to send a clear signal to both Ukraine and Moldova by starting accession talks with Ukraine and Moldova when it comes to their EU candidate status. We also need to acknowledge and we also need to work out a very clear strategic path for Ukraine to become NATO member state. Because we all understand we can talk about assurances and guarantees, but the only strong guarantee as we see is the full-fledged membership into NATO. When and how, this is of course is something where this conference, many experts, politicians are going to talk a lot. But I think that we need also to acknowledge that if we want to have long-lasting peace in Europe, then we also need to address the membership of Ukraine into EU and NATO and membership of Moldova into EU. Also, we need to tackle some of hybrid warfare challenges. We are still waiting for the results of the investigation of what has happened in the Baltic Sea, the so-called Baltic Connector. We need to understand that we need to protect critical infrastructure. If we see that there is a state party responsible for the damaging of the critical infrastructure, then we also need to address this at NATO level, maybe actually also considering closing the shipping in the Baltic Sea for the Russian ships if Russia is found guilty. But I just want to underline that we have to also get full results of the investigation. We here in Latvia, like our neighbors in Lithuania, like our good friends and partners in Poland, are seeing that migration is being used as the hybrid weapon. We also believe that we need to address not only the physical security of border with Belarus, with Russia, but we also need to address political and legal protection of the border. So I do believe that there are many challenges, but as probably at one point nobody could expect those brutal attacks in Israel, we also need to be forthcoming and to understand that there are also some regions in Europe that if they are not addressed, then they can present some challenge also for the European Union and NATO in the future. And here I'm talking about the Western Balkans. I do believe that Western Balkans is something where we could say that the European Union still fails its commitment. We still need to have much bolder strategy there. So plenty of issues to discuss. I'm very happy to see many old friends here in this room. I wish you a really successful conference. I very much hope that in a year to come, some of those very challenging circumstances will somehow be addressed. And to all of us, I can only wish to be bold, be prepared, and stay strong. Thank you.